This game is trying to revive 3D platformers. It's just a copying Banjo-Kazooie.
I just point out he's doing the Italian hand, the Italian pizza hand thing as he's doing this, as if it's helping him.
It keeps me in the in character.
All right.
Welcome to M8-Bit.
Hello everyone and welcome to M8-Bit, a brand new podcast that's 6-Bit's game show and a 2-bit pile of shit. My name's Sam Riley and I'm joined, as always, by the fabulous Fareed Athman.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
By the devious and deceptive David Hall.
Hello.
Is that all you got?
Yeah.
Yep.
Really quiet.
And by Velociraptor, Phil Cairns.
Hello.
Right, so this is our second podcast. We're going to start off, as with last time, with synonym Graham's. Yep.
Yeah?
Yep, good.
Yeah.
Right. If you didn't listen to last week, if you didn't listen, then basically what we do here is we take the name of a game or a character and we just swap it around with synonyms. And then all of these three, they have to guess what it is. Right, so number one, Toy Brick Celebrity Conflict. And the clue for that, Toy Brick Celebrity Conflict.
Lego Star Wars.
Oh, he's done it. He's done it. Congratulations. That's one for Dave.
First one of the season.
What?
Yeah.
Oh
And
my god.
He's made up for how terrible he was last
It
week.
took me so long to understand that. Well done. Well done.
Do you want to
mate.
hear what the clue was? Dave didn't need it, but you two might have.
Yeah.
You could call this game Magic Mike. Both are about plugging holes and rounding up studs. You like that?
That'd have thrown me off.
Right. Number two. Ass Ape Nation. That is Ass Ape Nation.
But Gorilla Country.
The clue is...
Donkey Kong Country?
Yeah.
Yes,
Is this going to be a tradition now? Someone sets Faz up to get it right.
Alley-oop, innit?
Knock it out of the park.
We arranged
Classic.
this earlier. We arranged this because we felt bad for you. The clue for
You
that
are
one.
welcome.
This primate rides horny animals for fun. You see? Because a rhino is a horny animal.
It is, yeah.
Yep.
Well done.
Especially in mating season.
I see what you did there.
Number three. The clue I'll start with this time. I'd never before seen so many shit-faced nurses. And the actual one to guess is Soundless Mound, the name of the game.
Silent Hill.
Silent Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Right, number four. Alloy Cog Hard, Harmony Hiker. Alloy Cog Hard.
Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker.
Brilliant.
Yeah, boy! Oh no, I did it again. I promised I wouldn't say yeah, boy once in this podcast, but
You were doing well, but we're going to deduct all your points for saying that. So Dave is still in the lead.
Hang on a second. Oh no. Yeah, I got one. It's drawing.
All right, it's 1-1 then. 1-1.
Yeah, but you just lost all your points.
Oh shit,
Yeah.
yeah, says.
All right, so the clue for that one was everyone enjoys playing with a firm serpent. That was Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. See what I did there?
Firm Serpent, Solid Snake.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Right, number 5. Centre Soil, Silhouette of Additional Entrance. Centre Soil, Silhouette of Additional Entrance. It's a tough one, this. They're getting harder.
Say it again,
Centre
please.
Soil.
I know what it is, the beginning, but what's the second bit?
Silhouette of Additional Entrance.
Middle Earth. Shadow of Mordor.
Oh, he's done it. You did it all
Yes,
yourself
I did
this
it.
time.
I got my point back.
It's 1-1-1. Well, technically you had 2 points, but let's not.
I've got
dwell on
technically
that.
I've got 3 now.
And you mind read me then. I definitely have Middle Earth in my head first.
Took me a while.
Right, number 6. Chip Chamber Disorder Hypothesis. Chip Chamber Disorder Hypothesis. And do you want another clue?
I know the second part of it. I don't know the first part.
The fisherman just loved wearing tight spandex. The fisherman just loved wearing tight spandex.
Oh, I know the second
Something
part's
about
Chaos
fish and
Theory.
chips.
I don't know what the first part
Something
is.
about fish and chips. It's Fish and Chips 07. Bill's got it. From EA Sports. Challenge everything.
Oh, good. Does that mean I win?
Nope.
Can you repeat the clue, please?
The clue is Chip Chamber Disorder Hypothesis.
I thought you were going somewhere with James Pond, Robocod.
What's
Well,
Chip
the-
Chamber? Chaos Theory is the second part. What's the first part?
How can you... You've got that. You've done a Dave and a Phil. Everyone's done it now.
What's the second part? I don't know a game with the name Chaos Theory in it.
You're all thinking of the food chip.
Not Deep Fat Fryer then. That would be some kind of chip chamber.
Chip.
Yeah, that's a good call. But no.
Potato cell.
Get away from
Splinter
the...
Cell Chaos Theory.
Cell.
Oh my god.
Told you that's a tough one. Because I
At least I got it.
know you get tripped up on the chip thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fisherman, Sam Fisher.
Yeah, I
He's a
get it.
man.
I feel like that one was quite clever, and we were definitely not very clever.
I don't know
You were
how I
not
got
up
it
to
to
the
finish
challenge.
yeah.
As soon as you chucked EA Sports in, I was like, he's going for it. He's going for James Pond here.
No, I'm afraid not.
Robocod. What a game.
Was that EA? I
game.
thought that was Psygnosis, whatever they were called. They had an owl as their logo. Anyone remember them?
No.
They did Adidas Power Soccer, Wipeout.
That's why nobody remembers.
Yeah, probably right.
Just didn't seem to work when it was in the bin, did it?
Right,
Okay.
so now we're going to move on to great bits, hate bits. David, what have you been liking this week?
I'm going to keep it pretty short and snappy because they're sort of intertwined. My like is Mario Kart. People are suggesting it's probably the best Mario Kart game of all time. Probably agree with that. The rubber banding doesn't seem quite as intense. However, my hate bit is blue shells.
Ooh.
That was a really quick
But it's
bit.
I'm loving it so much.
All right, let me put it to you. What is it about Mario Kart 8 that makes it better than 7? Because me and you used to play 7 all the time.
You're not on it for a starter, which
I
means
see.
I can win games.
Yep.
Like I say, the rubber banding's not quite as intense, so you can pull a bit of a lead away if you've got the right.
I don't know what rubber banding means. What does that mean? What does rubber banding mean?
Basically, the last car and the first car.
Yeah.
The way Nintendo works is they keep you together. So even if you're terrible, you can't finish that far behind the first character.
Okay.
So they keep you together. So like when you're in the lead, you'll only get bananas, coins, occasional mushrooms, those kind of power-ups. Whereas if you're 8th, you'll be getting blue shells, you'll be getting
Bullet bill.
bullet bill,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah, bullet bill stuff.
Lightning.
Okay,
So
cool, that
so it
makes
keeps it all like fresh. But yeah, the blue shells are still a point of anger. I think, to be fair, rather than Mario Kart being a dislike of it, it's more that I'm just not developed enough as a human being to accept.
You're still a plankton.
Yeah, it's causing tension in the partnership with the girlfriend there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she keeps blue shelling me when I'm in the lead.
She keeps blue shelling me. This is another sexual euphemism. Potential.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's costing me my 3 stars. So yeah, when you're in 3rd or 4th place and you see it happen to 1st, you think it's the greatest thing in the world, and you think like it's hilarious.
It's like falling over in
but
real life.
when
It happens to you.
when it happens to you, like life is unfair.
Yeah.
And it really does suck. I just don't have the range to express my emotions properly after that happening. Really.
Just sink into yourself and become a shell of a man. I find
A
that's
blue
the
shell of a
ideal
man.
way. Blue shell of a man. And on that bombshell. Right, first, what's your great bit this week?
My great bit is I've recently been playing Neo. Has anyone played it?
No.
No, every time, man, every time. So essentially, it's everyone says it's a Dark Souls clone, and I don't think I'd disagree with that. I think it's very different from Dark Souls, but it's also very similar. So it's just a very difficult, punishing game set in not so ancient Japan, like samurai times. And essentially, you play an English samurai, a guy who was like one of the first Western samurais.
Yeah, he's based on a real guy.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Although he's
supernatural
Irish in the
dragons
game, and I
stuff.
don't think he is in real life, or he was. He's probably definitely dead now. But
Let's check that. Let's get the fact checkers on that.
get on Wikipedia. But it's really cool, and I've always avoided the Souls games because I just thought I wouldn't have the time or the energy or the patience, because I know how difficult and grueling they're supposed to be. But I actually really, really enjoy Neo, and I think that it's kind of opened the doors to Dark Souls for me, and I find it so addictive. Just sort of playing the game, dying, getting frustrated, leveling up, coming back again, and then just beating the shit out of some massive boss that you couldn't kill 10 minutes ago. Well, not 10 minutes ago. Read that as 4 hours. But it's really addictive and really fun. And I love that it's opened the whole world of Souls and Bloodborne to me now, because now I will play those games that everyone always bangs on about, and I've never been able to contribute to
Well,
the
come back to
conversations.
me when you finish the game, because as fulfilling as those kind of games are, and I've only played the original and the DLC for it.
Of Dark Souls.
Of the Dark Souls, yeah. The problem with them, I think once you've ploughed about 60 to 80 hours into one of them, which is generally what it requires, you need a bit of a breather, you need a palate cleanser. So
It
for
doesn't
me, the
surprise
palate
me.
cleanser has been about 3 years now.
Yeah,
As I say,
definitely.
come back to me when you finished it and see how you feel.
Well, I've got like quite a few games on the go at the moment, so like Neo's one that like if I've got like 3 or 4 hours to spare, I'll have a bash at that, and then I'll go to something else. And I think that's been keeping it sort of like fresh for me.
Yeah.
I think as well, like everyone says that Neo is a lot faster than Dark Souls, which I kind of get even from not playing Dark Souls. So that's another reason why it's not like tired me out yet. But who knows? I'll have to try Dark Souls and let you know.
Yeah, so what is your hate bits?
My hate bit.
It will soon be Neo or Souls once you get a
Yeah,
chance to die a few more times, but for now.
To get frustrated enough. My hate bit is Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Ooh.
It's not really Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I just wanted to see what your reactions were.
I
Essentially,
I
what
was
it
about
is
to rage.
actually is when I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I can't honestly say that I really enjoyed it, and the reason why is because the girl in front of me for the last half of the film was uploading a picture of a pie to Instagram. And it was so frustrating. I can't tell you how
I thought
annoying.
the word was going to be tasty then.
I don't. So frustrating / tasty. Like,
Now, how big was this pie that it took her half a film?
It was. I don't know. I don't understand why it took her so long. And the thing is, as well, like, why I will never understand why anyone can spend £12 on a cinema ticket to sit on the phone. Like, why have you spent £12 to look at this massive screen when you're looking at this tiny one in front of you instead? Like, I genuinely wanted to kick her in the back of the head. I was sat there, and I'm that kind of type of guy where, like, I can say something to them, and I would say, like, excuse me, can you put your phone away? But then I'd be so angry at the fact that I had to tell her to put her phone away that the whole of the rest of the film was destroyed for me because I'm just thinking about it. Yeah, but because I didn't tell her, I was sat there thinking, I should just tell her. I should just tell her. Why are you not telling her? And because of that, it was still ruined for me anyway. So from pretty much like, the halfway mark till the end of the film, like, I just had this pie in the corner of my eye, just like burning into my retina. Just like, why is it taking you so long? And because of that, my hate bit is that girl and Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yeah, wow, pretty much, yeah.
But her first, not the film.
No, the film, I actually really enjoyed the film, but like, I honestly can't say that I can give it a fair enough review because I was so pissed off for like the last half of it.
All right, Phil, what is your great bit of the week?
My great bit is also kind of my hate bit.
I see.
So I watched Louis C.K.'s new stand-up special on Netflix, 2017. Yeah, anyone seen it? Anyone watched it? Anyone watched any of Louis' other stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2017 is really good. It is really good. I really enjoyed it. But it just didn't quite hit the mark. Maybe it's because Louis is so good now and he's just put out so much good content that it's difficult to keep that like consistency and level all the way through his career. But it feels like he's peaked, or at least it's not quite the return to form that like you would expect from him. He was really good in the sense that like everything was like really well written, everything was really well delivered. He was actually on form. That the actual set was solid. It's clearly been like refined and rehearsed, and he spent a lot of time thinking about it. A lot of effort's gone into it, but some of the material just felt a bit like he'd kind of covered similar topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find that quite a lot, don't you? Like Bill Bailey does that. Like,
yeah,
I got like the box set of his first 3, and by the time I got to the third one, I knew what the jokes were, and he just basically refined them. Obviously, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, it is happening a little bit. When he says so much things that are designed to shock, I guess there's only so many topics you can do that about. Yeah, but he does it really well because the opening line is he walks out on stage, everyone's cheering, everyone's clapping, and the audience starts to quieten down, and he hasn't said anything yet, and he just goes, so the thing about abortion is, and it's, do you know what I mean? It's immediately divisive, like, and it's great because it gets such a big reaction and a massive laugh, and he said one line, he's just said the thing about abortion, and all of a sudden everyone's already thinking this is going to be like grim, and this is going to be really deep, and like we're in for a bit of a ride here. Kind of what
a lot of
you expect.
euphemisms there.
But it's kind of what you expect from Louis, and he does it really well. It just feels like all of the jokes and all of the things that he was setting up never quite peaked. It never reached its sort of logical conclusion, and he sort of moved on to the next bit. It just felt there was a lot of build-up and not a huge amount of payoff this time around, which is disappointing because every other special that he's done, and a load of his TV shows as well, it's been that build-up and then that like one big like logical conclusion to the topic he's talking about. It just never really felt like it this time around. But the thing is, I still love it because it's a really, really good, I think it's about an hour and a half, maybe a little bit longer. Like it's a really solid hour and a half of comedy. It's hilarious. And anyone else doing it, if it was a newcomer doing that set, that would be their big break. Like everyone would think they were the next big thing. But I think just because Louis done so much great stuff, it just felt a bit flat for me.
Well, just wait until Amy Schumer does it all in about another 10 months, which apparently is apparently what she does, although I can't confirm or deny. When it comes to Louis C.K., I do think because he gets a bit too blue for the sake of being blue, especially with some of his stand-up.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a bit of blue humour, but you've got to... but you've got to know when to, to rein it in. And I think Larry David, whether he says this in Curb Enthusiasm or whether he said it in an interview, knowing when and how to use swearing is just a great tool in the arsenal of a comedian. To say you're not going to use it at all is a waste, but to use it too much as a crutch, that's kind of stupid as well. Yeah. And the same with blue humour. I think that, sprinkle it on in little places, shock people a little bit, and then, go with it from there. But people like you, Frankie Boyles, they kind of just get in a groove where that's all they do. They just shock you to the point you're not shocked anymore.
I think as well for this one, because you're right, because someone like Frankie Boyle, you know what he's going to say is offensive and it's designed to be offensive, but it's not necessarily like what everyone's thinking. It's just the extreme of the topic. Whereas I think what Louis done a lot of times previously, he said things that are divisive and people find them shocking, but it's kind of similar to people's own internal thoughts, and that's why it's funny, because they were like, that's kind of what I was thinking anyway. Yeah. Whereas this time around, I think he still does that, but some of it feels like it's a bit more designed to just shock rather than make you think about anything. But it's 100% worth a watch. It's really funny. I'll definitely watch it again at some point.
All right, cool. Well, I guess your recommendation, even though it's not quite up there with the cream of the crop with his other stuff. As for me, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to say hate and a love at the same time. And that is, again, Darksiders. I talked about this last week, and then what do you know, the third one, after about 5 years, gets unveiled, and people thought it wasn't going to happen. The reason I think it's great is basically what I just said. I thought they were fantastic games, underrated, Zelda-ish, with some good hack and slash mechanics underneath it as well. Not the best hack and slash, not the best in class in any of its attempted genres, but still a very good game, very worthwhile. Sort of the epitome of an 85 out of 100 type of game, Not quite up there with the greats, but very, very worthwhile. The things I don't like about the reveal is it seems generic to me, and especially in the fact that there are 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. One is a woman, and you're playing as her this time, and she just looks like every dark elf, saucy, seductress character you've ever seen. And she doesn't necessarily fit in with the art style of the other two quite. It's almost there, but again, it does look like a fan version. I mean, I don't have much more to say on it, but essentially, it seems very generic, sort of her art style in particular, her attitude. As someone who has very recently found out about Darksiders, but very quickly invested into it and its characters and its world, it's not the best, but again, it's very good and it's entertaining. And it seems that she's the conciliator, she's the sort of nice one of the horsemen. But instead of the kind of mothering instinct they originally seem to have posited, now it's like, I'm a seductress and, I don't care about this other horseman. It's like, well, that kind of contravenes everything and everything that's already been established. And I'm fine with making a few changes, here and there to lore. I'm not one of these people who's like got the lore book handy and I'm just like, no, this is you changed this unnecessarily or something like that. But sometimes it just feels as though you make a change, you've got to justify it to the fans. And if it's just to make things more generic, then what's the point? No. That being said, if they're going for generic, then maybe they're trying to capture the kind of audience that the game's always deserved, but never seemed to capture, because they didn't sell as well as they really should have done. And maybe that's a failure of marketing. Could be anything, really, but they're great games and they deserve to be played. The other thing I hated, and I'll keep this brief, is that in some of the early coverage, they did a deal with a website, and the person they got to play it, either they don't play these type of games very often, or maybe they've not given enough oomph to the gameplay tester to really show what this character's all about. But it just feels kind of lightweight, her attacks, and it looked very pretty but kind of generic, and that's a bit worrying for me. So that's my great bit and my hate bit. I'm looking forward to it, but kind of more cautiously than I would have liked. All right, so now we're going to move on to M8-Bit. This is the point of the show where we just do silly impressions of things. We're going to keep it shorter this week. Maybe it went a bit over the top last time. So the rules are as such. You get a sheet of paper, you pick at random, and it tells you who you're going to do an impression of. And then halfway through, we're going to change it up a little bit this week. Someone else will pick out a situation, and halfway through your little spiel, you're going to have to add in the situation. So last week, it would have been Mickey Mouse, Faz would have picked. And then halfway through, someone would have said, falling down a mountain. And then he would have to... Exactly. Just like a Looney Tunes. So, do you want to start, Dave?
Not really, but I will do.
Okay, so pick one of these at random.
We still need a jingle for this section, don't we? M8-Bit. Brought to you by
Death
McVitie's.
So I forgot to mention, if you didn't listen last week, the things that we'll be reading, the script as it were, is going to be Metacritic reviews, user reviews, usually negative ones because they tend to be funnier. So Faz, you could do the honours and get those ready. And Dave, you're going to tell me what you have. Who have we got?
I've got Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. Now that was one of your suggestions, actually. I should say that was your one and only suggestion. So clearly you've
It was also my suggestion, wasn't it?
It's almost like I looked through them all.
Almost, yeah. Right.
Okay.
So you're going to read this review, and then Faz, if you want to do the honours, picked out a random situation, and Faz is going to shout out
A
about
random
halfway through.
situation.
Okay, I've got it.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, and scene.
You got what he sounds like.
I can do Morgan Freeman. I just
Alright.
just do like give me 5 seconds of Morgan Freeman.
I'm not Andy Dufresne.
Okay. What
Cracking start.
What game?
Gee, Dave. I don't think you're saying Morgan Freeman.
What game are you playing? I just can't do Morgan Freeman.
Are you gonna tap out again, Dave?
I'm gonna tap out. I can't.
He's lost again, ladies and gentlemen.
Bottled it.
Right, we're going to move on to Faz.
Okay, I got Jon Snow. Jon Snow.
Jon Snow.
Castle Black.
I'm no bastard.
Okay.
So like
Fucking
a
rubbish.
constipated dinner lady is how I like to think of it.
Yeah.
Oh, Jon Snow.
What? Okay, I'm ready to go. Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
Sound like my PE
I'm reviewing Outlast 2 by Valve's HL3. What game did you fucking play? This monstrosity is no better than the first one, which I finished in just over 3 hours.
You're eating loudly.
I can't for the life of it not understand
Dying of consumption.
our game like M8.
What's he doing? Yeah, exactly.
Which was
Put it away, John.
planned primarily for its shit animation. Yet this game was getting tens. Fuck off, you cunt.
That was Jon Snow if he was born in Burnley.
Yeah. Right, Phil, pick one of these out.
It's me, Mario.
You happy with Mario?
Okay, so we are in the same game, and this is by 77. This game is trying to revive 3D platformers. It's just a copying Banjo-Kazooie.
I just point out he's doing the Italian hand, the Italian pizza hand thing as he's doing this, as if it's helping
it keeps
him.
me in the in character.
All right.
So that they get money from everyone who played it as a kid. The camera is awful.
You're honking like a goose.
The sign is bad. And it has horrible frame rate issues. Wow! Skip this and play Banjo-Kazooie. A good platformer similar to this. Or the newest Mario game from Modern One.
That was like pure method acting. Daniel Day-Lewis should be afraid.
Right, my turn then. I'm going to pick one at random, and let's see what we have. We got Stan Lee, comic book magnate. Everyone knows Stan Lee? Excelsior! Right, so we got a 0 out of 10 for... What game is this first?
Ukulele.
For Ukulele. 0 out of 10 by Pretty Colours. Okay, that's Stan Lee. Absolutely atrocious. Huge step forward for the franchise. Only masochists will enjoy this slog through hillbilly
Stan Lee
country.
is failing to whistle.
It's not like the pervert from Family Guy. The spit came out.
He's an old man, Faz. That's what happens. With a pickaxe 20 times. Hold on. In the same section, the uninstall button in all of its glorious brilliance was the only recompense to this harrowing adventure. Did I do it right? Thank you. Right, so that was M8-Bit. A bit shorter this week, a bit snappier, a bit more, a bit more fun.
oomph to it.
Helps when there's only 3 of you doing it.
Dave, as you pulled out, as they say,
Yeah.
You instantly win by default.
we're gonna
Thank
ask
you.
Dave to pick a winner this time.
Phil Cairns.
Oh, controversial.
I would have to say,
Highly controversial.
I was going to agree with that. Okay, so Faz, now we're going to move on to Shitty Soapbox. It's a soapbox that's covered in poo.
I'm
Perhaps it
excited.
was in the stables. I don't know.
We don't.
So Faz is going to take this soapbox and he's going to talk this week about Outlast.
So this last week, I bought Outlast 2, which I played the first game. I did quite enjoy it. I thought it was a very new and interesting concept. Has anyone played it?
Nope.
No? So essentially, it's a horror game where you're a helpless guy who only has a camera to hand, and the camera fortunately has night vision because most of the levels are pretty flipping dark. But that's all you have to defend yourself. You can't hit anything. If anything's chasing you, all you can do is run away. That's essentially my ideal horror scenario. The idea of all of these antagonists coming towards you, but you can't do anything about it. That to me is terrifying. And all of the the areas in it are so claustrophobic that adds to it so much. And I would have thought that it would make for a really good horror game, but in all honesty, it just didn't scare me. I guess I want to know what you guys think would make the ideal horror game. Outlast frustrated me for a number of reasons. The main thing was the story wasn't all that great. To be honest with you, it focused a lot on sexual body horror. Really unnecessarily, things chasing you with the willy flopping around. Yes, I said willy.
ever since Alien and H.R. Geiger.
Yeah, on top of that, there was the whole idea that basically, this thing's chasing you, it's really scary, it's making all creepy noises, but if you die, you literally just come straight back alive exactly where you were, so what's there to be scared about? And that really, those are the two main things.
Now, how do you fix that? How would you go about fixing that?
Well, if you die in the game, you die in real life.
I see.
That would help.
Sort of like a really crap sort of TV movie or
The
an episode of
Matrix.
CSI.
Yeah.
I see. That's a novel way of going about it, but probably wouldn't work that well. Although, having said that, I was doing a bit of research for an article the other day, and I came across a game. I can't quite remember the name of it. It's called Dash Dash or something like that. Essentially, what it does though is play a kind of asteroids type game, maybe Space Invaders. But every single enemy you kill is a file on your computer that cannot be recovered.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's classed as a virus or malware by a lot of companies.
Yeah.
But it's different in that you have to actually download it onto your computer. And if you shoot down an alien ship, say goodbye to Kavos 07. It's a very interesting idea. That kind of finality. That's what you're asking for in a horror game.
Yeah, so have you played Zombie U on Wii U when it first came out? So you played a character and you kind of got attached to that character, and if that character died, that character never came back and you came alive as someone else in the city, which I think is a cool concept because it means that there is genuinely, there's genuinely something bad about dying. There's no it's fine, I'm just going to come straight back alive again, so what's the point?
I wouldn't say you got attached necessarily to the characters because they were just cookie cutter.
I guess.
They never really said anything but the loot that you'd collected.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I mean. So yeah.
But actually, I think you're onto something there. If you could combine the kind of loot loss system of a Dark Souls, where if you die twice you lose all your souls, or a Zombie U, where you have to go get it again, or even something like is it Rust? All the sort of semi-MMO survival games.
Post-apocalyptic stuff.
Yeah, or Ark, things like that, where you actually lose it for good. I think that is a great way to create a lot of tension in your everyday to-ins and throw-ins in the game because you don't want to lose the loot. But also, as you were sort of mooting, the idea that you get attached to the character, but they are disposable. So maybe instead of having, I don't know, a million or infinite, randomly generated people that you will occupy the body of once you've died, you could just have maybe 20 that they've gone to the trouble of writing a bit of dialogue for, a bit of a backstory. And if all 20 die, then you lose the game. There are some games like that where you would get a huge amount, but maybe even Broforce, I think that gives you, something like 20 odd characters. Yeah. But when you've gone through them all in a certain mode, then you're done. So if you did something like that, you get the feeling that you are attached to the character and then they die and you feel really bad, but you also lose your stuff, so you feel bad about that as well. And yeah, it does create that kind of desperation in those struggles with the the boss or random enemies and zombies, things of that nature, to really want to live more so than just that's what the game wants me to do. That's just the narrative.
Well, it reminds me of Dead Space, but there's like a mode on it, like a difficulty mode where you only have, I think it's 5 saves throughout the whole game. Like, and I think that adds an element of pressure as well, in that if you use all those 5 saves, like, you're pretty fucked. And if in the same that if you die, you'd lose a lot of stuff and a lot of progress. And if you go back to the last save, if you only saved like an hour ago, then there's a real pressure there, and I think that's where the fear comes from.
Anyone else have any sort of ideas on how to do horror properly?
Specifically to the game, how does it work? Is it like over the shoulder, or is it first person?
It's just all first person, yeah.
All first person. Are you kind of viewing it through the camera?
Well, you have the option of lifting the camera to your face, so that you have essentially the only 2 collectibles in the game are batteries for your camera and bandages to heal yourself if you get attacked. Yeah, so you have the option of lifting the camera to your face, so you don't want to have it there too often because obviously it'll run out of battery.
Obviously you can see a lot less when the camera's not there. That's the point, right?
Yeah. Well, if you're in the dark, yeah.
So do they make use of that? Because there's loads of games, like I remember playing Slenderman with you.
Oh yeah.
And in the dark, that was terrifying. That was genuinely terrifying because you couldn't see much. And you didn't know where he was. Does it feel like the same, or have you just missed the mark?
Yeah, there's some moments like that. There are definitely a lot of jump scares. There was one, like, at the very start of the game, there was one moment where I was like, that was pretty cool, where you're in the dark, it's at night, you walk into this village and you don't know if anyone's there, but it looks kind of like, abandoned. And you walking past some houses, and in the distance you can just see this little glint, and as you get closer, or you can zoom in on the camera as well, and as you get closer you can see it's a guy's face just looking at you, but he's like kind of in the distance, like far enough to just look intimidating. He's just staring at you, and I found that kind of stuff more scary than like the obvious, you're walking past something and a guy grabs you.
Yeah.
And there was a scene basically where you're at this little camp, and it's like, I don't know what the people are. They're kind of like lepers, and they're all just in these little tents. And every time you walk past one of the tents, one of them jumps out and grabs your leg, and you're like, oh God, that was so scary for the 9th time.
Like a quick time
It
event.
sounds just pretty cheap scares, really, jump scares. Like there's some great moments in horror games. Like there's some really good moments in the Resident Evil games where you get a jump scare and it's terrifying because it doesn't happen very often. I think that being overused makes a really terrible horror game, and I think it's the classic fear of the unknown, like that guy just standing there.
Although I would say, back to your point, and back to the point we were talking about earlier, vis-a-vis swearing in comedy, I think a jump scare is similar to horror. The meat and potatoes of good horror is the atmosphere it creates, and everything you do with the audio and with the visual to try and make people feel uncomfortable. And then the jump scare is this sort of like the cherry on top. It's the nice little point of emphasis that you use to drive something home. Because if you actually asked a lot of people, are jump scares really cheap? And they would say, yeah, I don't like jump scares. They are cheap. They make you scared in a sense, very briefly, over something that really, it's not, a lot of the time hasn't been earned by, say, a horror film. It hasn't earned the right to sort of scare you as much as it has because it's not that good. But when it comes to, when you ask people by the same token, what is your favourite scary moment in the game, they will invariably say a jump scare, like Resident Evil. The famous bit where the dog jumps through the window.
Yeah,
that shit people up. That. So I think you need to strike a kind of healthy balance where it's mostly building great tension, great atmosphere, good enemy design, all that kind of stuff. Jump scares should be there, but perhaps not to the extent that Outlast 2 seems to be using them. Yeah,
I can't even say it used them that much, but I think it used them as its main scares, if you know what I mean. And I think that was one of its downfalls. I think one game that used jump scares really well was PT. Did you play that?
No.
Oh, it's so good. Like, essentially, it was only a playable trailer, but you're walking through a corridor over and over again. So when you start off in a room, you walk through the corridor, and then when you get to the end of the corridor, there's a door, and that door leads to the start of the corridor. So you just walk through the corridor over and over, and there's little puzzles that you have to solve each time you walk through the corridor. And every time something really subtle changes, and there are a few jump scares, like there's you can hear like a woman crying sometimes, and if you turn around there'll be a ghost there and it'll grab you, and then you kind of become immune to that because it happens a few times, but it's all part of the puzzle and the repetition stuff. But every time you walk through the corridor and you see that it's different, you're kind of terrified because something's going to happen, but you don't know what and you don't know when. And to be honest, 9 times out of 10, nothing happens. Like, it's just the atmosphere and the tension that makes you, but you expect a jump scare. And I think because they used it, you know, to an extent, and then they sort of like made you expect them, but they didn't happen. I think that was what was so good about it.
I think the jump scare works when there's already tension built, and it breaks the tension because you feel tense, and then it happens, and you go, that was the thing that I've been worried about for the last 5 minutes. Whereas if there's no tension and there's just a jump scare, I think that's when it's cheap.
Yeah, and it never scares you.
Yeah.
Well, it never scares me anyway. If it hasn't been built up.
So, what would you say your favourite horror game is then?
I actually don't know. You know,
I would say for myself personally, I was always kind of a bit afraid of horror films and games growing up.
Me too, definitely.
I prefer games because you do have that sense of agency. You can run away from the threat yourself rather than watching some ditzy person run up the stairs instead of out the front door, or not shoot the person in the head twice when they had the chance.
Yeah.
So having that agency, like in Dead Space again, every time you saw a necromorph body on the ground, you give it a good kicking. If you were, you'd seen in a horror film.
Yeah, just shoot the shit
that's
out
what
of
I
it.
did every single time because,
That brought a smile to your face when you said that.
But yeah, that game rewarded you for, knowing some horror tropes. You could kill all the enemies on the ground to stop them jumping up and getting you most of the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, even though I was kind of worried about them, the thing that drew me in was there started to be so many good action horror games that I could no longer ignore. It's kind of like in the way that with horror, sci-fi horror, I couldn't ignore the horror element anymore because these were sci-fi as well, and I wanted to see them so much. Yeah. So Predator could be considered a sci-fi horror, or an Aliens, and I so desperately wanted to see them. I was like, fine, I will. I'm a kid at this time, and I will deal with the horror because I want to see the sci-fi element so much. And as I say, in gaming, you got your Resident Evil 4, you got your kind of Alan Wakes and things like that, and I couldn't ignore them anymore. I really wanted to play them, and Dead Space, of course, as well. So the action elements brought me into it, but then prior to the recent kind of trend for just straight up horror in the sense that found footage, stuff like Outlast, where you have very little, control over what's happening, you just have to run away. There was that big trend that people got sick of for action first horror. Yeah. And
which Resi started, I guess, didn't it?
Yeah, but is there a way to marry those two concepts together? Okay, I've heard a lot of good things about the original Condemned game. Because that gave you
one of my definitely one of my favorite horror games,
and that kind of combined them, but it's not very well known, and I wonder why that is. Because just from an outsider's point of view, that seemed to combine them really well.
Yeah,
maybe the melee wasn't that great, but here's a big question we should probably cover: when it comes to your agency as a player, perhaps Condemned strikes a good balance between you're able to defend yourself, but there's not a lot of ammo around and things like that, and sometimes you will have to run away. But to what extent should you be able to fight back competently? If you're playing an old Silent Hill game, part of the terror is that James Sunderland, for instance, isn't very good at fighting because he's an average man. But that feels clunky in practice when you're actually performing it. It feels slow and not very enjoyable in a sense. It's only that the horror is so well done in Silent Hill 2 that you're able to forget that and even let it add to the experience. So what would you guys say? Do you think that something like a Resi 4 where you've got more control over the character could never be truly scary? Do you need those things taken away, or can you make it work?
Well, I personally quite enjoy the game where the character is not as particularly adept, because I think it adds to the realism. Slightly off topic is Tomb Raider, where but the way Lara Croft moves on that, she fights how you would imagine to. She's just survives basically, which is what you'd expect in a horror film. In a horror film, nobody's really expecting the horror. Although Resident Evil, the films are particularly fun, you're not predicting that a Rottweiler's just going to, attack you out of nowhere, are you? You're not going to be ready to, drop kick it and do spinning kicks and shit like that. You're going to be caught off guard, so you're going to fight a bit unorthodox. So I quite like that element.
I think one game that I really, really enjoyed recently was Resident Evil 7, because it did strike a really fine balance between fighting and feeling genuinely helpless, whereas I suppose Outlast is just feeling genuinely helpless throughout. It definitely did get worse as you got further through the game, but the first section in the house with Jack, has anyone played it? No. So there's the first section in the house with Jack, who's essentially the father of the family, and he's just a mental hillbilly. But I don't think at the time you have any weapons at all, and you're just being chased down by him. And he's there's a part where you're walking through the corridor, he's chasing you. You're walking through a corridor, and he just smashes through the wall, and that is just insanely scary. The fact that he could just come through a wall wall. Like you wouldn't, you'd expect him to be behind you or coming through a door or something, but to just smash through the wall and be there in front of you, that was really, really cool.
I played it in VR, which I think could be the next sort of leap in gaming in general if they get
terrifying.
it right. It's very unnerving, and once they sort of work out the kinks with VR, like the nauseous feeling that you get, and I think that most games will benefit from it if studios really commit to it. But in the case of horror, it could be a huge leap, because all of a sudden, rather than that need to have the lights on if you're playing a horror game at night, everyone knows it's scary when you play it with the lights off. But with a headset on, you don't really have a control of that. You are in the dark, essentially.
You are in the game, aren't you?
Your cat could come in and scare the shit out of you, because like they jump up on your lap or something and you're not expecting it because you have no sort of sensory awareness beyond what the game wants you to have. So locking people into that and tying it to Resident Evil 7's kind of nice mix-up between the two styles of doing horror, I think is probably the best way that they could go about, doing it in the future. Whether it catches on, in terms of the VR, I don't know. But it was a very sort of frightening experience, and I cracked a few jokes while I was doing it, but there is that sense of dread that you're a human being. You can't shake it.
Yeah.
The hairs on the back of your neck stand up involuntarily.
Yeah, it breaks that barrier, doesn't it? Like the television is like a safety barrier, and once that's gone, like I can imagine that's absolutely terrifying. The idea that like by looking around a corner in a game, you just like, well, the television's there, but with the headset on, and something, the fact that something could be right in your face when you turn a corner is terrifying. But it reminds me of it. Did you see that episode of Black Mirror where the guy went as part of like a VR program, and he went into a horror game where he was in a house, and basically the AI in the house was playing on his deepest fears. He went into the kitchen, there was like a huge spider and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like that. I imagine that if we could get to that point where it was more augmented reality, would be amazing.
And again, you take it to the nth degree. You're saying the television gives you comfort, the peripheral vision, knowing that you're in a room looking at TV, gives you comfort.
Yeah.
Once you're in the VR, less comfort, but you still have the weight of the thing on your face. So again, less comfort, but still comfort. Once you do it inside someone's eyeball or in their neck or something like that, that's the point at which it becomes truly terrifying. And I will never play a game like that.
I would love to.
Even if they become the norm. It's probably too much for me. So, is there anything else you'd like to say about Outlast 2? I mean, would you recommend it despite all of its problems?
Yeah, I think I'd more recommend the first one, to be honest with you. I thought the first one was genuinely terrifying, but I think that was maybe because the concept was completely new, at least to me. And then going into number 2, I expected a similar experience, but it just wasn't what I wanted. It felt like it was more diluted. I think they'd refined some concepts, like in the first one. Say, for example, in this one, there's a bit where you're in some mines and you have to crawl through these tiny little, really tight caves, and you can hear people crawling behind you. And there's a really good mechanism in the controls where if you tap the left shoulder button, you turn your head on your neck so you can see exactly what's behind you. And if you're crawling through this tiny cave and you can turn your head round and see this naked, mad hillbilly woman running after you, chasing after, crawling after you, that's pretty terrifying. And I'm glad that they refined those kinds of things, but I still don't think, I think really a lot of it came down to the narrative and the setting. In number 1, you're in a prison full of mental bastards, and in number 2, you're in it's like a cult village.
Oh, okay.
Which I think was just too much of a departure for me to find it scary. But I would definitely recommend it. Just don't spend full whack on it.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to cinema stories. And this week
brought to you by Tommy Tucker.
It's inedible. So Phil, you're going to tell us about your cinema story this week. Take it away.
So my cinema story is one of the other guys that worked there. Everyone really liked him, but he was always just doing slightly strange things.
He's a quirky guy.
Yeah, he was pretty quirky. But one of the things that he was known for was he always had, whenever guests were coming in, he'd always call them various, a group of people. So, for instance, if it was Harry Potter was out and all the Harry Potter fans were coming in, as they'd come in through, he'd just be like, "Oh, magic people!" If it was Star Wars, he'd be like, "Jedi people!" And then when the In-Betweeners movie was on, and it was in, everyone heard, the entire foyer heard, they were all coming through, and he just shouted, "Clunge people."
Don't know if that's a compliment.
I have no idea.
Right, so So we're going to move on from Cinema Story onto our final game. It's called Pun Up. We've changed the rules a little bit, so this week the theme is medical emergencies. So I'm going to start off with Naughty Dog's game, The Blast of Pus. Oh, do you like it? That is a medical emergency.
The Blast of Pus.
The Blast of Pus. Right, Phil.
Oh, mine seems really shit in comparison now. I just had a Grand Theft Autopsy.
That's good, I like it.
I'm going to one-up you. I'm going to go for...
Do you mean Pun Up?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Grand Theft Autoimmune Disease.
Oh, fucking same one. I got the same one.
Right, what would that involve?
Great minds, Dave.
What would that involve? Because we know what the Blast of Pus is, and we know what would be Grand Theft Autopsy? Stealing the body?
Sure, yeah. No,
Driving away in a car? Oh, in the
stealing.
hearse.
No, it would be stealing the body, completing a thorough, correct autopsy, and then replacing it with all the documentation.
What a coroner. He's a career criminal coroner, is what he is.
It's like you thought that out, like you've clearly been thinking about that in the shower, haven't you?
What about you? What's Grand
It would
Theft
be
Autoimmune disease?
stealing the person's ability to properly immunely respond.
Stealing their white blood cells.
Immunally respond.
to
Stealing white blood cells.
yes, that's exactly
I'll
what.
help
Yeah,
you out there.
there we go.
Right, Dave, what we
So
on?
I'm going to start off low with my my cheap shot. Virtua Tennis Elbow.
Oh, he's done it! Right, on to the next one. Anginal Fantasy 4. It's the fourth one. It's like it's his fourth angina attack. Can you have an angina?
A fantasy about anginas.
I think angina is more of a chronic problem. With his angina, he gets a bit short of breath, so he starts to have kind of visions, and that's his anginal fantasy. There you go.
It's funny you go with the Final Fantasy.
There was
series,
another one that rhymes with
because-
anginal.
No,
I didn't go with.
Here we go. It's a bit of a stretch, but Final Infanticide 7.
I like how it's number 7 because they killed 7 infants.
Yeah, I don't know if you.
Is that a medical emergency?
Not really.
I think the emergency's
That's why it's
over
a bit
by
of a
that point.
stretch. It's
I like it though. I mean, I don't like infanticide. Or do I? No. But I like that.
All right, Herod.
That's the second time today I've been called Herod.
Biblical reference. I'm going to go for the more family-friendly Crash Bandages.
Is that in the crash
good.
cart for when you're being wheeled into the operating theatre?
Yeah, it is.
Good day.
Yeah.
See. What are we going with, Dave?
I'm going to say this now because I'm slightly worried that Faz might have had the exact same idea because I know it's a favourite game. So this is Abe's Exoduslocated shoulder.
I actually did come up with Abe's autopsy, but as Phil said autopsy, I decided to omit it.
Very good though. I like it. It's going to be very difficult to decide. I don't think we're going to be able to.
No.
All right, here's one. It's a bit of a tangential one. It's Batman related though, and there are many Batman games. Bruce Wayne thrombosis. I don't know what that would involve. I think maybe he's in the Batjet for too long without moving his legs around, and he gets like a blood clot. But he's fine. Don't
Got
worry
to wear
about
his
him.
compression bat tights.
Exactly. Although he probably would be fine, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Because he's wearing the bat suit.
Maybe.
So yeah,
Maybe he was
kind-
doing it in his boxes
That's some
today.
kind of spray anyway, if not.
probably. So Phil, what's yours?
Okay, so I've gone with a character this time, and it's just quite a straightforward one. It's just Professor Stroke from the Pokemon series.
What does he do? Does he induce the strokes or does he help people out of them?
Both.
I see.
He induces it to help people out of them.
Right, Faz, what's yours?
Continuing the horror theme, I've gone for Silent Pill.
Ah.
A game in
that's
which you
simple.
try and take your medication as quietly as possible.
How loudly do you take your pills?
Very. I crunch every one.
Right.
I'm not sure. Well, it probably is a medical condition. Diddy Schlong Racing.
That just sounds like Puff Daddy's new name.
Medical emergency, though? I mean,
Perhaps not an emergency.
I mean, if it wasn't Schlong, and then it immediately was.
It took me so long to get it.
that's what she said. How's it racing, though?
Yeah, bloody hell, get him in that room. Let's get a race going.
So you get a bunch of people afflicted with micro penis and have them do a race. Is that the medical emergency?
Probably in
or-
wheelchairs around the ward, yeah.
I see.
Going to be some sort of like photo finish with the person with the longest schlong. have some sort of unfair advantage.
That'd be
The
a
longest
handicap.
long win.
The schlongest yard.
The longest long.
Right. Let's get back to the serious.
Let's get serious.
Now.
It's so serious part of the podcast.
Sorry.
Right. Fire embolism instead of fire emblem. Probably not my strongest, but I like it.
Yeah, well, you went for it.
You have an
we
embolism. It
appreciate
feels like
it.
you're on fire. I don't know. I've not had one. Let's pray I don't.
I've not had one either.
All right, Phil.
So we got again. This is kind of like a combination with the last two because it's Final Fantasy themed and it's also a character. So it's just cloud strife threatening injuries.
Every time you get stabbed,
Yeah.
it's a cloud strike threatening injury.
Yeah. My last one is panda pneumonium instead of pandemonium. Pandemonium.
Pneumonium.
That's just pandemonium, but really cold. The cold version.
Is the game
Everything's cold.
Everything's cold.
Even the controller's cold while you're playing it.
Oh, that sounds
4D.
That sounds horrible.
That's pretty much what it is.
That would be a scary game if your hands got stuck to it, like in The Tongue in pretty much every Christmas movie ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, mine needs a bit of a Yorkshire accent, but I'm going to go for Tekken Ill.
That's genius.
Second ill. I like it. It's good.
Genius, mate.
Okay, my second to last one. You guys finished yours?
Yep.
I've got one more.
Okay, so I'll do my second to last, then we'll go
Is it
to Phil.
Theme Hospital?
No, it's just red alert.
Ah, yes. I think you mentioned that one earlier. That's very good. I like it.
No, I've got one more after that.
Oh, have you? Okay, so my second to last, the penultimate one. We just mentioned the series. X-meningitis.
That's pretty good.
Thank you. And that would involve all of the X-Men getting meningitis. Right, Phil, what's yours?
My last one is just Crash Bandy acute injuries.
I see.
I save the best to last.
Yeah, nailed it. Right, so Dave, you got any more? Any more?
Yeah, but I'm not 100% sure that this is technically correct.
Is it Tekken Ill too?
Technically correct.
Is it, I've been Tekken Ill too, yeah.
Tekken Ill tournament.
It's Slip Disc Wars.
Good.
Is that just old people
Game within a
riding
game.
around on the floor,
Yeah, pretty much. Just
trying to hit each other with their walking sticks
Yeah.
while laying prone?
Yeah, just chucking
Well,
spinal columns at
incapacitated.
each other.
And my last one, and the last one of the day, Pokemon Gangrene. So that one, I was worried about that one because there are no games with green in the title, really.
No.
And we didn't get Pokemon Green over here. We got Blue and Red. And then in
That's
Japan,
true.
I think they got green.
Unless you got a dodgy copy of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Plenty
So I
of
think
people.
we all made the big mistake there, putting our best ones first.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's been another week of 8-Bit. I hope you enjoyed it. Say hello. Say goodbye, everyone. Say hello. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao.